Hi all, today we're going to be talking about the NSX Naginata, the NSX light machine gun that is available to all factions, and it is pretty junk. So, the Naginata has a unique gimmick. It's like all NSX weapons, it has a gimmick. Is that if you stand still, your cone of fire will be locked and it will stay fairly accurate. The problem is, the Naginata has literally nothing else going for it besides that one gimmick, and that gimmick is not very good. So, the Naginata, its fire rate and damage model is pretty ugh. I mean, 659 RPM at 150 damage, dropping off to 125 is okay, but that puts you just above the NS15M's damage model. And that's already the slowest killing light machine gun in the game. So, the Naginata kills slowly. The muzzle velocity is on the bad side at 490 meters a second, and while the ammunition size of 90 rounds and its reload speeds of 4.4 long, 3.2 short are actually relatively good, that's about all I can say for this weapon that is good. So as I mentioned, the Naginata's unique gimmick is that so long as you are standing still, even if you completely hold down the mouse for the entire magazine, the cone of fire will stay locked and your gun will stay fairly accurate. The problem is, this trait is not very desirable. It works in defensive situations where you're going to be standing still, but it doesn't work if you want to play offensively or if you want to stay alive in general, because if you stand still, guess whose head is going to be quickly turned into lead. It's a really counterintuitive gimmick where, yes, it does work in defensive situations or situations where you can just stand still and hold the mouse button, but you become an extremely easy headshot target, and you will probably get dropped more often than not trying to use it. And given that its damage model and TTK overall are not very good, it's just a really mediocre LMG that I genuinely cannot recommend putting an Araxium on, unless you need to do the NSX directive, the NSO LMG directive, or the Exceptional 2 directive via the Platinum version. In the way of attachments, you get the standard scope lineup. Of course, because it's NSX, you get access to the unique 1x and 3.4. Other than that, it is exactly box standard. I personally would not run anything above a 1, because the vertical recoil is actually fairly sharp on the Naginata, and anything more will be annoying to use. In the barrel, the compensator, the short barrel, and the flash suppressor are all fine. The heavy barrel is junk. If you're just going to be aiming it down sights and monkey moding it, compensator's absolutely the way to go. Flash suppressor's a nice slot filler if you don't want to commit to anything. There is a wacky hipfire build that you can make work with the short barrel. I personally would not advise it, but if you want to, be my guest. In the rail, honestly, all your choices here are fine. If you're going to be aiming down sight monkey moding it, the grip is good. If you're going to be aiming down sight monkey moding it, the extended magazine is good. If you're trying to make the weird hipfire build work, the laser sight is fine. Personally, I found myself using the forward grip the most, but they're all fine picks. In the ammo slot, both ammunition types are actually fine. There's not really anything special with either of them. Because the Naginata only effectively drops one damage model, and as such will remain a 4 headshot kill at all ranges, extending your damage range just doesn't actually matter that much. I personally opt for high velocity just to make it a little bit easier to use at range, but if you want to extend the 7-shot body kill range, soft point ammunition is fine as well. Ultimately, the ammo slot here doesn't really matter and will mostly come down to can you kill kids or not. So, it is currently 6:45 PM on Connery, and we're just going to jump right in. I would like to note that this is my 4th time trying to do this now, because the first time, it turns out that I had my recursion voice pack on, and I use a particularly amusing pack that I'd rather not have in the video. One that will almost certainly get me struck from YouTube. And then the other 2 times, I simply messed up my wording within the first 30 seconds. So here we are. 4th time's the charm. So, the Naginata is... I really, really hated it. I put the Araxium medal on my Vonu character, that's why you don't see me with it on my NSO character. And it is just not a very good light machine gun in my experience. The problem with the Naginata is that, yes, it does have a relatively interesting gimmick of, as long as you're standing still, you can hold down the mouse button and you can still hit people. The problem is, holding down the mouse button and standing still usually means you will get shot in the head and you will die. And because the bloom is significantly worse than other LMGs, if you're not standing still, this means that you have to burst this gun extremely heavily, which takes its bad time to kill and makes it worse. And it's not like the 15M, which gets saved by the fact that it's 0.75 ADS and is significantly easier to use in terms of its recoil pattern. The Naginata is just big mediocre. It doesn't offer anything, and, you know, especially for it being a freebie weapon that was given away with one of the anniversary codes, I don't even remember which one. Honestly, it was a really bad choice. This weapon isn't friendly to new players because if you stand still, unless you're fighting literal bots, which, to be fair, are the common player nowadays, but, you know, unless you're fighting literal bots, you will just get clipped in the head and you will die, because you don't have the damage model to compensate for your stationariness. So, giving it to a new player, who is already probably not very good at the game, and giving them an LMG that is also not very good for the game, that is not fun to use, does not kill quickly, and its gimmick will probably not even be understood by a new player unless it is pointed out to them. It's a really debatable decision. I genuinely must wonder what the developers were going for with this LMG, because I don't understand it. The only limited chances I've had any success with it is on defensive situations or farms where you're literally just going to be standing still and holding on a doorway. That is genuinely the only use I've ever gotten out of the Naginata's gimmick, because, like I said, unless you're playing against literal bots, you're just going to get domed. Unfortunately, it's Hassan, which means there will not be very good fights, and furthermore, it's nascent, and Vanu are currently losing this base badly. And because Connery's pop is in the dumpster, it's unstable, which means there's no other fights right now. So we're just gonna have to make do. Gee, I love playing on Connery. I love having all my stuff on Connery. Regardless, the Naginata is not a good LMG. If you're a new player, just use your starter faction-specific one instead, it's better. Whether it's the Orion, the XMG-100, the Carve, or the GD-22, the starter option is just better. They kill quicker, they're more convenient to use, they're more intuitive to use, and most importantly, they're not shit. And, you know, it's just... I really don't understand why they gave this one away for free. Probably because, let's face it, no one would buy it if they tried to make it for Daybreak Cash and didn't put it in a big anniversary bundle, like the networked one. If the network Naginata even exists, I haven't checked that bundle in a while. My point is, this gun is not good. And giving it to new players who already have a very poor understanding of the game is a baffling decision to me. I simply do not understand why they wouldn't have instead elected to give something like the NS15M for free, which, you know, actually has merits of being used over your starter LMG because it actually has some interesting gimmicks going for it. It's extremely easy to use, and it has 0.75 ADS. Granted, of course, they're a new player, they probably won't do super great with either, but it would be better to give new players a gun that would actually, you know, be useful to them when they started to understand the game, instead of giving them a pile of junk that new players will get sucked into thinking is a better option than their starter, when it is significantly worse in nearly every probable way. It's just a bad LMG. I hated my time with it, I hated putting the medal on it on my Vanu character, I'm going to hate putting the medal on it on my NSO character. It's just not a good weapon. It's not fun to use. It's not fun to use, it's not useful, because its gimmick is just not useful within the game's meta. Like, I genuinely don't really have anything else to say about this. Like, yeah, I can crouch on this guy, but he can just run away because the damage model isn't that good. And nobody else is shooting at me, so of course I can farm on him. But that's not, like, I could have done that with any other LMG in the game and not suffered nearly as bad an accuracy hit to my stats. God, I love it when Maxes fall to their deaths as a result of orbital strikes. Anywho, I literally have nothing else to say on this gun. Honestly, once I die, I'm probably just gonna call it, because I hate using this gun. I genuinely hate it. It's awful. It is genuinely terrible. Don't use it. If you're a new player, use your starter LMG instead. It's way better. And honestly, Rogue Clan, what were you thinking giving this thing away for free? It's terrible. It's so bad, and it doesn't even help new players learn the game in any conceivable way or be good for them. I'm not taking that revive. I'm not using this gun any longer. So, thank you. I will see you tomorrow. Bye.